Gas exchange in humans. First of all, we can look at the body cells. These are our body cells. We find that all the body cells carry out a process in which oxygen is required. And oxygen will be used to form carbon dioxide and also energy. We use oxygen, we use up the oxygen to burn the food, and then the food will be burned to release carbon dioxide. Okay, when carbon dioxide is produced, it will travel along the circulatory system, and then it will go to the lungs. When it goes to the lungs, because of high concentration, it will diffuse into the air sac. Okay, yeah, so here we have a lot of carbon dioxide. They're produced during respiration by body cells. So this carbon dioxide will be travel to the air sac and then diffuse to the air sac. For diffusion to take place, first of all, we must have high concentration in the blood, and carbon dioxide will diffuse from high concentration to low concentration. How about oxygen? Yeah, oxygen, so the carbon dioxide, after forming, it will be exhaled, breathe out. Okay, you will breathe out the carbon dioxide and then remove. Carbon dioxide will keep on producing by body cells. So this carbon dioxide will be transported to the pulmonary artery, and then they will diffuse down the concentration gradient from high concentration to low concentration, and then they will be breathed out. So this is the process of carbon dioxide. How about oxygen? Yeah, in the air, the oxygen we have 21%. So the air breathing contains a lot of oxygen. This oxygen will diffuse down the concentration gradient from high concentration region to low concentration region. And then they will be transported along the pulmonary vein and then move to the heart, and then they will be carried to these body cells to supply to the body cells. Okay, so this is the gas exchange. We have two sites. One is the lungs in the air sac, the other is in the capillary. So this what is the gas exchange in the air sac. What is the name of this molecule? We have a lot of them, and they have high concentration. They combine with the hemoglobin in red blood cells. These are the oxygen molecules. Yes, they are the oxygen molecules. These oxygen molecules will be carried by the blood through the pulmonary vein and then supplied to body cells. So for the uptake of oxygen, oxygen will be inhaled from the air, and then the oxygen will dissolve in the water film. And because in the air sac, oxygen is a type of gas, this region, it is in gas state, but the other part, it is mostly made up of water. It is in liquid state. So we have to get the oxygen dissolved in water first. There is a film of water in the inner layer, in the inner wall of the air sac. Next step, the oxygen will diffuse from high concentration region to low concentration region down into the liquid. So it composed of two parts, dissolve and diffuse. For carbon dioxide, it is the opposite. First of all, carbon dioxide diffuse from the capillary out. Next step, it would diffuse into the air sac, and lastly, the carbon dioxide will be exhaled. This is just the opposite of oxygen. This end of the capillary wall is in the left-hand side, the other end to the heart. So for the first region, this is region 1. Which part is number 1? Try to mark number 1. Yes, number 1 is here. This is number 1. The capillary bring the blood from the body This is the body which produces a lot of carbon dioxide. After respiration, a lot of carbon dioxide. And then the carbon dioxide will be carried to the lungs. So this end is from the pulmonary artery. How about the other end? The other end, this end is number 2. Can you mark number 2 in this diagram? After passing through the air sac, which part is number 2? Which part of blood vessels? This one is number 2. This part is number 2, not this one. In the lung, we have the air sac, and then the blood passing in and passing out. This is 1, this is 2. So this lung is the air sac, and passing into it is number 1. Passing out, it is number 2. So these are the carbon dioxide. They are produced by the body and then transport from the body into the air sac. Okay, yeah. So these are the carbon dioxide. When they move in, this is part of the capillary wall here in the end of the pulmonary artery. Okay, so this side comes from pulmonary artery. They will have high concentration of carbon dioxide because carbon dioxide are produced by the body. And this will pass to the air sac. When it reaches the air sac, we have diffusion. We have more carbon dioxide in the blood, so the carbon dioxide will diffuse from the blood to the air sac. The carbon dioxide will diffuse from the blood to the air sac. But you may wonder, because diffusion only takes place from region of high concentration to low concentration, at certain points, we find that there are same concentration of carbon dioxide in blood and also in the air sac. So diffusion may stop. How can we keep a high concentration gradient in this region? We want to keep it a high concentration gradient, but we want to keep a low concentration gradient in this region. We want to make it low concentration gradient. How I make this region high concentration and then the other region low concentration? Which arrows will help to remove the carbon dioxide? Can you circle the arrow? Yes, this is breathing out. So we have the breathing mechanism. We try to breathe out the carbon dioxide. So the concentration of carbon dioxide in air sac will be low. How about in the blood? How can we keep a high concentration here? They are constantly produced by our body. The body cells carry respiration. They produce a lot of carbon dioxide. And the carbon dioxide will be pumped, will be carried by blood. Okay, will be carried by blood, and then they will reach this region. They reach the capillary wall in this region. That means here. So with the blood, they will keep bringing this carbon dioxide to the air sac, okay, to the blood in the air sac. Therefore, the blood will help to keep high concentration gradient here. How about oxygen? Okay, if we look at oxygen, in the air, there are 21%. So in the air sac, there should be high concentration of oxygen. But in the blood, we have low concentration of oxygen because oxygen, when it travels to the body, it will be used up to form energy and also CO2. So the oxygen here, when they bring to the body, they reach the body and then they will be used up. Okay, therefore the blood flowing to the lungs in this direction will have less oxygen. Therefore, we have low concentration low concentration of oxygen here, and then high concentration of oxygen in the air set. So diffusion will also take place from high concentration to low concentration. But at a certain point, if the concentration on both sides are the same, diffusion will stop. So how can we maintain a high concentration gradient here? You can try to circle the hint. There is an arrow showing how you keep a high concentration gradient here. Yes, this is the breathing in mechanism. So the oxygen will breathe into, so it will breathe from the air into the lungs. Okay, so this can keep a high concentration here. Okay, how can we maintain a low concentration of oxygen in the blood? We have the pumping action of the heart, so the oxygen will be carried away. So the oxygen, when it enters into the lungs, it will carry away. Therefore, there is a low concentration here. So this is the air set, and the air set is surrounded by a lot of capillaries. It acts like a balloon, which when you breathe in, it inflates like a balloon. When you breathe out, it deflated. We look at the adaptations of air set. This part is frequently assessed in public examination. It seems easy, but you have to apply them to different situations. The first adaptive features of air set would be the large number. If you look at the lungs, this would be a large number of air set inside. This is the cross-section of the lungs. So we have these structures. They are the air set. Okay. This is an air set. And we show you another air set. This one is also an air set. So we have a lot of air sets. So these are the air set. Instead of having just a big balloon like this, we have the lungs which have a lot of air set. So this can increase the surface area. And other features, you will see there are a lot of blood vessels. For blood vessels, you can see the red blood cells, the blood smear, which is red in color. When you see these red colors, most probably they are the blood vessels. Okay, and this one, you cannot see the blood inside because this is the structure of the lungs. So this one is the tubes which leads to the air set. We call them bronchiole. The second adaptive features, we find that the inner layer of the lung is lined up with water film. This allows gas to dissolve in the water film. This is a past paper. In the diagram, you see there is a water film. Explain the importance of water film in gas exchange. You will see oxygen. First of all, the keyword, dissolve, because oxygen is a gas state. But most of the structure, okay, after passing through the water film, the cells, the blood, the red blood cells, most of them are watery. Therefore, oxygen must dissolve in water film first. Next one, the keyword is diffuse. After dissolving into the water film, it can diffuse through, we have two walls. One is the wall of the air set, the other is the wall of the capillary. We can diffuse through the wall of air set into the blood capillaries. Thin wall. Where is the thin wall? This one is the wall of the air set. This is the cell which made up the air set, which is made up of one cell thick. This is the one cell thick epithelium forming the air set. And the other one, we find that it is the wall of the capillary. So we have two layers of cells which come close together in close contact. Therefore, the distance between the two is very short. We have the distance between the air sac and also the blood is only 2 layers of cells. In this case, we have a short diffusion distance. The last adaptation is richly supplied with blood capillaries. So the capillary will carry the gas away or bring some of the gas to the air sac very quickly. So this allowed rapid transport of gas to maintain a steep concentration gradient. It maintains a high concentration of carbon dioxide, so that carbon dioxide can diffuse into the air sac, or a low concentration of oxygen, because oxygen will be carried away. Okay, which color represents, we have two colors here. One is pink, one is blue. Okay, which one is the oxygen, pink or blue? Pink. Yes, pink color is oxygen. It will be carried away. And carbon dioxide is blue in color. It carried from the body cells. So here we have high concentration of carbon dioxide in the blood and low concentration of oxygen here to maintain a steep concentration gradient. Okay, this is another slide under microscope of the section of the lung. This is an air sac, and this one is a capillary. You can tell by the red color inside this circle. This is the black capillary. This one is the blood capillary, and then this is the air sac. They are separated by 2 layers of cells. Gas exchange takes place here, where oxygen will be taken up by the red blood cell and carbon dioxide will be released to the air sac. Adaptive features of the air sac, first of all, we have large number of air sacs which provide large surface area. The other one is the wall. The wall is thin. That means it is made up of 1 layer of cells. The air sac is made up of 1 layer of cells, so it can reduce the diffusion distance. Inner layer is moist. It allows the gas to dissolve in water before it diffuses. Richly supplied with blood capillary. This one is similar to what you have learned for nutrition in human. It can rapidly transport the gas to and from the air sac, so it can maintain a steep concentration gradient. Lastly, it is lying close to the capillary to reduce the diffusion distance. Okay, this is an exam question again, HKDSE question. With reference to the structure shown in the photomicrograph, which of the following are adaptive features for gas exchange? You will see that in most cases, in public examinations, they will show you a section of the lungs instead of some drawings, like in the textbook. If you see these, they are the air sac. So what are the features shown in the diagram, in the photomicrograph? I need to have the features which are shown in the photomicrograph. And these structures, they are the adaptive features for gas exchange. Can you see any water film from this photomicrograph? Can you see it? No. How about short diffusion distance? You can see this is the distance. Yes. 13. How about rich supply with blood capillaries? This diagram is black and white, therefore it has some hints. I'm not sure whether the public exam, the diagram, the original diagram is a colored one or not. But if you see the hint like this, this can be shown. In public exam, usually they will give you colored diagram like this, and you can see they are richly supplied with blood capillary. Usually they will label the capillary. They don't expect you to know the structure by just looking at the diagram. Okay, therefore, the answer here is 2 and 3. The answer is C. Application of this knowledge.
You have pneumonia, your airways or lungs have an infection caused by germs, such as bacteria, viruses. Your airways catch most germs in the mucus that lines your trachea, bronchi, and bronchioles. Hair-like cilia lining the tubes constantly push the mucus and germs out of your airways, where you may expel them by coughing. Sometimes germs make it past your mucus and cilia and enter your alveoli. Normally, cells of your immune system attack these germs, which keep them from making you sick. However, if your immune system is weakened due to age, illness, or fatigue, pneumonia-causing germs can overwhelm your immune cells and begin to multiply. Your bronchioles and alveoli become inflamed as your immune system attacks the multiplying germs. The inflammation causes your alveoli to fill with fluid, making it difficult for your body to get the oxygen it needs.
Pneumonia, very hit now. And there are other diseases which have similar effects, like SARS. So we have the pneumonia patient. You have a lot of fluid accumulated in the air sac. Explain how the accumulation of fluid may affect the oxygen content of the patient. What is the effect of accumulation of fluid to the surface area for gas exchange? Surface area. Try to draw the surface area, the surface for gas exchange in a normal person and also in a person with fluid accumulation. Yes, this is the surface area, and the other one, the patient, the surface area is reduced. Okay, the second one, how about the diffusion distance? Try to mark the diffusion distance. Yes, the diffusion distance is much longer. Okay, therefore, both of them will reduce the efficiency of diffusion of oxygen. Okay, both of them, the reduction in surface area and also increase in diffusion distance will reduce the rate of diffusion of oxygen. Here, there is another keyword you need to pay attention, affect. We have 3 marks. You have to state what is the effect. Now, for example, accumulation of fluid may either increase or decrease or remains unchanged. Therefore, don't use the word affect. Instead, you have to state reduce or decrease. Some word like this. Affect, this word has no mark. Don't just copy this. When we have accumulation of the fluid, we will increase the distance for diffusion. This is the distance for diffusion, and also reduce the surface area for dissolving oxygen. Therefore, it will decrease the rate of diffusion of dissolved oxygen. This time we don't mention carbon dioxide because you are only asked to talk about oxygen. So the rate of diffusion of oxygen decrease. And lastly, it is the oxygen content. The oxygen content decreases. So when we put it in words, the accumulation, first of all, it will either affect the distance or the surface area. Either one explanation is enough. Altogether, this is 1 mark. The second mark, it will decrease. We talk about oxygen here. Therefore, we only mention oxygen. Dissolved oxygen, the rates decrease. Therefore, the oxygen content decreases. And then another example is smoking. You can see the air sac of a smoker. First of all, the elasticity is less for a smoker. Also, you can see the number of air sac decreases. Okay, this is another exam question. We have two persons, P and Q. Which one is a smoker? P or Q? Yes, P is a smoker. Supporting evidence. We have the structure M. The structure M. You can look at the magnification. Both of them are times 200. Times 200. That means the same magnification for both. Here, if I have the same magnification, that means for P, this same area, it contains only one air set, but for Q, a normal person, it has a large number of air set. So this one, smoker, is P, and then the supporting evidence. For B, some of you mark B. B is a fact, but it cannot be an evidence. Can you see it is covered with tar? You cannot see it is covered with tar. It is not observable. But can you see the number of structure M? Number of structure M is air set. The number of air set is smaller. Here we have one air set, but for the same area here, we have many air set. Okay, therefore, this is the supporting evidence. The answer is A. Another question. Structure M. Explain how structure M is affected by cigarette smoking. Here we have structure M, and how is it affected by cigarette smoking? Explain the function. How is it affected? First of all, we find that we have less structure M, and also the surface area is greatly reduced. One more thing. Here, this is the wall. The wall is thicker. You can choose either one to mention. And then this can reduce. Again, you can see, don't just copy the word affect. Affect, score no marks. You have to say reduce. Something about smoking. There are some effects of smoking. In this case, this is the cilia along your trachea. This layer of mucus is moving very slowly because it is sticky. It has trapped a lot of smoke and also the tar from the cigarette smoke. Therefore, it affects or reduces the ability of the ciliated epithelial cells to remove the dust. Let's look at one of the examples. We have two photomicrographs. In one of them, you can see the label is dust deposit. Whenever there are some dust deposits on the air set, we find that the surface area for gas exchange will be affected. This is the normal surface area, but if it is covered by dust, this area cannot carry out gas exchange. With reference to the above information about certain lung disease, which a hardened layer of dust deposit. So the information is hardened and also layer of dust deposit. Suggest two possible ways in which the disease would affect the gas exchange. Two possible ways. First of all, what happens to the surface area? The surface area reduce. Okay, surface area reduce. How about the diffusion distance? We have two layers of cells. This is the cell of the acid. This is the cell of the wall of capillary. If we have one more layer here, this is the dust. This is the dust. So if we have some dust, the distance increase. Therefore, we have two possible ways already. But we have not used this piece of information, which is the hardened structure. This structure is hardened. What would be the effect if it is hardened? This one is not mentioned in most of the textbook. Maybe we look at the flowchart first. I summarize the effect. First of all, if we have the cigarette smoke, it will inhibit the beating of the cilia. Therefore, there will be more dust deposit in the air sac. Now, this one is given. More dust deposit is given in the question. More dust deposit in the air sac. Okay, next one. Next effect. The surface area reduce because it is covered with the dust. Also, because it forms a barrier, it increases the diffusion distance. These two is obvious, more obvious, and most students can think of these two. But the last one, if the air sac is hardened or if the dust deposit is hardened, it will reduce the elasticity of the lungs. That means when the lungs breathe in air, the air sac will work like a balloon. It inflates to become a big balloon. But if there is a hardened layer of dust, the balloon elasticity reduces. Therefore, it cannot expand much. Okay, this one is the air sac. If it is hardened, then it cannot expand a lot. Therefore, it will reduce the lung volume. All these effects will reduce the rate of diffusion of oxygen, and the oxygen level in blood would be reduced. Okay, so this is the marking scheme. The dust deposit will form a barrier. This would increase the diffusion distance. So this barrier will affect the distance. The other one, if the inner surface is covered with dust, this would affect the area. Okay, now the inner surface covered by dust. The last one, it would reduce the elasticity. Virtually none of the candidates can write this point. Therefore, when the elasticity is reduced, that means the lung volume will be smaller. Remember to include these words, the effects. Reduce, small, not just small, but smaller. Okay? And this one, increase. So what you have learned are the factors. These are the factors: diffusion distance, surface area, etc. Okay, but in the examination, most of the case, they will give you some scenarios, such as you get a disease or your lung is affected by dust, etc. You have to judge how these would affect the diffusion distance, the surface area, the elasticity. This one, elasticity, will reduce the lung volume. Okay. Normally, it can inflate to form a large volume. Therefore, the surface area is increased. But if it is hardened, it cannot inflate. It will have a smaller volume for gas exchange. Okay, this is another question. We have structure M. Describe and explain the mechanism in which air from the atmosphere is drawn into structure M. 4 marks.